Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be going through the solution to exercise 1.21 from the C programming language textbook by Brian Kernighan and Dennis Ritchie. Now, exercise 1.21 says to write a program in tab that replaces strings of blanks by the minimum number of tabs and blanks to achieve the same spacing. Use the same tab stops as for detab. Now, for the detab program, we used 4 as the tab stop, so I've previously defined it. And now let's get into the program. So the first thing we need to do is declare an int for reading in characters, and we should also keep track of our position. Start it off at 1. Then we should also have 2 integers to keep track of our actual number of tabs and number of blank and spaces that we need to print out or replace. So I'm going to have int num of spaces, and I'm going to start it at 0, and int number of tabs equals 0. Now let's read in user input. So using getchar, it's getting kind of tedious by now, and this time at the end of our loop, I'm always going to increment the position. So while we do get in a character, just increment. We don't need to do any checks. We got in a character, not end the file, just increment. Okay, now let us go into our checks. So because our program replaces strings of blanks, we need to first check if we got a blank. Now, what do we do when we get a blank? First thing we need to do, in this example, suppose we put these blanks here, these hashes are blanks. We need to check the position. So if this is position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, let me just make sure this is, yep. So that actually works out. Position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, position 5, position 6. If I'm at position 6 and I get a space, there is absolutely no way I can get to that same position with just a space using a tab. A tab goes onto a multiple of 8, or after a multiple of 8. There's just no, it can't, right? Then I go here. I'm on position 7. Can I, just put in a tab? No. Position 8. Yes. Why? Because position 8 is a multiple of 4. So yes, actually, if we before said, oh no, put a space, no, put another space, oh wait a minute, here's a tab, replace all these spaces just with a tab. So let's do that. So we need to do another check inside. If the position modulus of the tab stop does not equal 0, that's to say it is not a multiple of the tab stop, then just increment the number of spaces. Like if we're on position 6, there is no way I could get to position 6 just using a tab stop. Otherwise, if that wasn't true, if I'm on a position that is a multiple of the tab stop, then I can reset the number of spaces to 0, and I should increment the number of tabs. Now let's handle the case that we don't read in a blank. If we don't read in a blank, the first thing we should do is output all the tabs. So I'm going to do for int I equals 0, while I is less than the number of tabs. And I should put tabs. And I need to be careful because this doesn't actually change the value of the tabs. So actually I'll comment that this put tabs. After we've done this, we need to make sure that we reset the number of tabs to 0. We've put all the tabs, that's it. No more tabs left to put it back down to 0. Now before we actually put spaces, we need to make sure that the character we read wasn't a tab. Because for example, if we had here, and then we had 2 more spaces. So we have one tab and two spaces, space, space. But what if instead of here of having a T, the character's another tab? Then we can replace those first those two spaces with the blanks with just one tab. So we shouldn't put spaces straight away. We should check. If I read in a tab, those spaces are going to be consumed by a tab anyway. We don't need to put spaces anymore. And so if the character is a tab, let us reset the number of tabs, to 0. Okay. Now we should also update the position, because when we hit a tab, the position doesn't just change by 1. And we set in the detab program to get the number of blanks that a tab is going to put, we can do this. Now, if you're not sure what this is, just see the previous video. I go through it in a bit of depth. And yeah, so this will tell me how much or how many spaces a tab is going to take up, right? This will give it to me. You know, if I'm on position 6 and I hit tab, position -1 is 5, 5 mod 1, 4, it's going to take up 3, right? If I'm on position 6 and I hit a tab, there is going to be 3 spaces, right? It's a simple calculation. And so we should update the position using this. But we have to be very careful here, because we, oops, why did I do that? Position. We need to be careful here, because at the end of our while loop, we increment position anyways. So if after we get to, you know, we were on 6, we do whatever we do, we will end up on the next available like non-blank. So if we're on position 6 and we hit tab, this will put us on position 9 after the 8. But then we increment position anyways, we get to position 10. We don't want position 10, we want to stay on position 9. So to get around this, we -1. Okay, now we have checked if it was a tab, and we reset, not number of tabs, number of spaces. I don't know what's wrong with me today. And we have reset the number of spaces back down to 0. Now we are safe to put in spaces. And I'm going to use a while loop, a for loop, sorry. Use put char, and once again I need to make sure that after I've put all those spaces, I'm done putting spaces, so I can reset the number of spaces back down to 0. Then once I've done all that, I've put the spaces, I've checked if it's a tab, I've done everything. Let me just put the actual character, right? And now I want to check if I should re-update my position back to the beginning of the line. So if my character is a new line character, then I want to update my position. But once again, we have to be careful. Why? Because, let me just bring this closer. If I do here, position equals 1, then I'm starting position at 1, but then at the end I increment position anyways, and then I get up to position at 2. I don't want this. I want to start at the beginning of the user input. So instead of starting at 1, I'm going to start at 0. Even though it's not 0 indexed, it's just because now I start at 0, then this line will increment the position to 1. And that should be okay. Now let's compile this. Hopefully we get no errors. Nice. Let us run it. Hello, space. This is a test. Ooh. Close. No, of course. The problem is here. When I'm putting in the tabs, in my terminal tabs are defined to be 8 spaces, but here I've used 4. So if I can get them to match, and if I can recompile it now, and then run it, my lines should be in line. Yep. Okay. So that was the problem. The tab stop in the program and the tab stop in my actual terminal were different. So that will be all for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.